Hi, welcome to my session for Next. My name is Isabella, and today we're going to be talking about how to scale your applications with Cloud SQL for MySQL. As I mentioned, my name is Isabella Lubin. I'm a senior product manager here at Google Cloud. I lead Cloud SQL for MySQL. We're going to be talking about a lot today. First, we're going to be talking about what we're hearing from our customers and from the community that loves MySQL. And then we're going to be talking about what we've built in response to what we're hearing. We're going to focus in on two primary areas. We're going to talk about how you can achieve higher availability and higher performance with MySQL. We're going to talk about how AI is being infused throughout Cloud SQL. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with next steps for how you can get started with everything that we've talked about today. So first, what are we hearing? Cloud SQL customers span industries, regions, and segments. We have customers who are running single applications and customers who are running fleets of thousands of applications, including some really critical and demanding applications. But the themes are really pretty consistent across all of our customers. The first thing that we're hearing is that customers need higher performance and scale as their businesses are growing. And they especially need to make sure that they're getting the right price performance balance for each of their applications. Often that actually varies depending on, the specific application. So one company may need different price performance for different applications that they support. And the big thing that we hear is that when performance of an application degrades, customers need to be able to react really quickly and make sure that those issues get resolved because performance is directly related to the end user experience. The next thing we're hearing is that customers need higher availability for their most critical apps. As apps are supporting users not just in one time zone but in dozens, as companies and the customers that they serve are becoming increasingly geo-distributed, availability is more important than ever, and applications need to be available around the clock. And we're also hearing that a lot of these application owners need to have disaster recovery plans in place for all different kinds of disasters. They need to have business continuity plans in place, and that definitely includes a database, right? The third thing that we're hearing is that there's an increased management burden on database teams. That, as the number of applications that a given company has developed grows, the fleet of databases is growing, but the same requirements exist. And if anything, they're more stringent than ever, right? Databases need to be patched. They need to have the latest OS in place. They need to have the right security settings in place that a company requires. But this needs to span, now more and more databases, and the burden on the team is growing. So companies are really focused on how they can reduce the management burden for their database management teams. And, who hasn't been hearing about AI, right? We're definitely hearing customers ask about AI with MySQL. Customers know that Gen AI can transform how their applications work and serve their users, but they're looking for more tools and support for how to integrate Gen AI into their applications with minimal effort. Last year, we launched support for a new edition of Cloud SQL called Enterprise Plus. It's really focused on helping our customers achieve higher performance and availability for their most critical applications. And we know a lot of you are already using Enterprise Plus. We launched capabilities in two primary pillars, performance and availability. We'll dig into a lot of what these new capabilities are. But the high level focus is Enterprise Plus delivers up to 3x faster reads and up to 2x faster writes. On the business continuity side, we now have a 4 nines availability SLA, which is inclusive of maintenance. And when we launched Enterprise Plus, we launched it with near zero maintenance downtime. This year at Next, we announced that it's actually now sub-second maintenance downtime. So these capabilities are really, really powerful, especially for the most critical applications that you have in your fleet. We have a lot of customers who are upgrading with the one-click upgrade capability right now from Enterprise to Enterprise Plus. And it's been really exciting to see how customers have been using it. But we're not done, and there's a lot more that's been coming. So let's dig into all of these capabilities with Enterprise Plus. So on the performance side, Cloud SQL E Plus now has support for a new performance optimized family, and it supports new machine types that can scale up to 128 vCPUs. It also includes a lot of performance optimizations to make sure that we're taking advantage of the underlying hardware so that you're getting the best performance right out of the box. With these improvements, you can get up to a 2x improvement in write performance. And then when it comes to reads, we have up to 3x higher read throughput with data cache. And we're able to extend DRAM-based caches to flash memory to reduce latency on frequently accessed data. So you're getting up to a 3x read throughput performance with Enterprise Plus. On the scale side, we now support up to 500,000 tables. And we see a lot of our SaaS customers in particular who have a design where they have one schema per customer need to have an increasing number of tables. So we previously supported up to 50,000 tables. Now we support up to 500,000 tables with no change to the underlying SLA. And obviously, as you grow, often you need to increase the number of vCPUs or memory, right? You need to scale up your application as the needs grow. We announced now that same sub-second downtime for maintenance is available also when you scale up your instance. So if you need to now increase the number of vCPUs on your machine, you can do that scale up with sub-second downtime. Let's take a look at how that works. This is showing a Postgres instance, but this works as well for MySQL. It's an Enterprise Plus instance for Cloud SQL, and it currently has 4 vCPUs. And our application needs have scaled. We need to be able to increase this. I'm going to ping the database just to make sure that the database is available. We're going to use this ping to look at how much downtime, how long the no response rate is as we're pinging the database when we do this scale up. So we're going to come to the console. You can increase the number of vCPUs directly in the console. And we're going to scale from 4 vCPUs to 8 vCPUs. That requires a restart. But as I mentioned, now with Enterprise Plus, that the downtime of that restart is sub-second. So you can see, right, we just scrolled past where that downtime was. You can see that the amount of time that the database was unavailable was less than a second, and that we've now increased the number of vCPUs on our instance. So it's a really powerful capability that helps you, scale up your instances as your needs change. The other thing we're hearing from customers is that, often for certain critical applications, they need to have a robust disaster recovery plan in place. Traditionally, what that entails is taking a replica in another region from your primary and promoting it. And that is a detached from the replica group. And it means that often you have to rebuild that replication topology that you've already created. With a new launch that's now in preview for MySQL, we have 2 primary capabilities that we've just introduced. The first is that we automatically recreate the old primary instance as a replica of the new primary. So when you do that promotion, we recreate that replica, which helps maintain that replication topology for you, right? And the second thing is that you can now switch back to the original primary region with 0 data loss. So as soon as you're ready to go back to the primary region, you can do that switch over with 0 data loss. We have a demo, but we don't have enough time to cover it today. So we're going to link it for you, and you can check this out when you watch the slides later. Okay, so that's everything we've talked about with how you can achieve higher performance, higher scale, higher availability with Cloud SQL for MySQL. But I want to talk about how AI is being integrated into Cloud SQL. There are 2 key ways that AI is transforming the enterprise industry, right? The first is how AI is helping you deliver new experiences for your end customers by creating more creative and interactive experiences that leverage AI. The second is how AI is helping your own employees become more productive by making the actual development and management experience more streamlined. So what does this mean for Cloud SQL? It means 2 things. The first is that if you're building Gen AI apps with Cloud SQL, you can now use MySQL as a vector store and for performing vector search. So you can perform vector search directly in place with the same operational database that you're already using and really start integrating Gen AI experiences in place. We're also making the data management experience easier than ever with Gemini and databases, which is a new set of assistive AI experiences that follow you throughout your data management journey. So we're going to dig into both of these. Let's start with Gemini powered, and then we'll talk about how to build a Gen AI app with Cloud SQL. So when it comes to Gemini, there are 5 main pillars of this new AI powered assistant that follows you throughout data management. The first pillar is Code Assist. This is all about how Gemini can help you actually write and fine-tune code. And you're able to use it now in a new capability called Database Studio, which allows you to query data stored in your Cloud SQL instance directly from the console. The next focus area is how Gemini can help you manage your fleet of databases, which is really critical for any of you who have a huge fleet of databases and you really need to be able to focus in on the most critical issues at a given time. Fleet management helps you identify issues that might exist across a number of different database engines from a single pane of glass. It's now available as part of Database Center. Performance optimization, as I mentioned, is something we hear a lot from customers, right? A lot of you have been asking us, how do I make sure that I really can dig into quickly performance issues that my database is experiencing? With Database Insights, which is this really powerful tool that helps you understand what's going on in your instance, we now have a set of new recommendations that really focus on issues that we see that occur across multiple database engines, but also some very specific issues that we've seen customers hit with MySQL that'll really help you make sure that you're managing the flags on your MySQL instance to get the most performance that you can. And then the fourth pillar that I'll really focus on today is about proactive governance. And this is about making sure that you have the right settings in place to abide by the specific regulations that you need to for your organization. So it's a set of recommendations focused on data governance and helping you improve your security posture. Let's take a look at what all of this means. So here I'm going to show you this new capability that I mentioned called Studio and how Gemini can help you write code within Studio. So this is a Cloud SQL for MySQL instance. And you can see here I've come to Studio. I'm logging in with a specific username and password. And what you'll see on the left is now a set of all of the objects that are stored in your database. So you'll see tables, you can view columns, indexes, keys, triggers, and you can get quick actions for each of these object types that'll just help you get started with, let's say you want you want to add a new column or change a column. You'll get quick actions that you can take that it will generate, the template of what you would need to run to actually perform that action. But you can also query the data that is already stored in this table directly from the console. Before I came over to MySQL, I actually spent a lot of time with SQL Server. And so let's say I'm a little bit newer to MySQL syntax and I want some help from Gemini. Gemini can help me code directly in the console. So I can say, hey, Gemini, help me create a table to keep track of all of the restaurants that I visited. And I can say, Gemini, help me generate this. And it will generate template code for me right there. Maybe, this is actually pretty good, right? It visited restaurants, it'll tell me when I visited, what my rating was, some notes. But maybe I also want to keep track of the specific location that the restaurant was in because I travel a lot and it's hard for me to keep track where all these restaurants are. So I can edit my prompt to Gemini and it'll add in location as a column. So it's already given me, this templated code. I can insert this and say, yeah, I think I like what this is. You could go and modify it a little bit if I want to. The other part of Gemini in Studio is code completion. So as you type, if you have this enabled, Gemini can help complete what the query might be. And, it knows that it just created a table or it just, wrote the code to create a table. So it says, maybe actually you're going to want to query this table and it'll complete that for you right here. So I have two things, right? I have, create table and select from table, but I haven't actually run any of these yet. So I need to go and actually create the table. And then, I can try to select, you can see that the table is actually going to be created, right? If you go down on the left, you'll now see this new table called visited restaurants. So I've created a table, but I actually haven't added any data yet. So if I go and run a select, it's going to return nothing. So, once again, I can use Gemini to help me actually start inserting data into my table. So I'm going to click that help me code prompt, and I'm going to say, okay, help me insert a new restaurant that I visited. That will help me keep track of a visit that I took to a specific restaurant. And right there, Gemini is actually going to be able to generate what I need to insert it actually, knows that the specific restaurant I prompted was in Vegas and wrote up a brief summary of what I might want to say. And now I can insert this into my table and quickly start putting data into the table that I've created. Note that I actually didn't personally write a single line of code with this, right? This is all thanks to Gemini. So a really powerful capability, both being able to query data directly from the console, but also being able to use Gemini to help code. So that's that first pillar of code assistance. This is a view of fleet management. So in fleet management, you can view different databases across a number of different database engines. Here we have Cloud SQL for MySQL, Cloud SQL for Postgres. If you have, AlloyDB as part of your fleet, you can also view that here, and you'll get quick views of issues that are occurring in your database, right? So, recommendations that we have of things that you should go do to make sure that your instances are more available, have better data protection settings, maybe have better are complying with certain standards for security. So this is a view of what one of those availability recommenders will look like. It's just flagging that there's an instance that doesn't have HA enabled, and so you might want to go and enable high availability. Here's another view of an instance that doesn't have automated backups enabled, so you might want to go and enable automated backups to ensure that you're protected, and backups are being taken regularly. So we have a lot of new mechanisms for you to make sure that you're getting the best performance out of your Cloud SQL instance. Some of it will come in the form of recommendations like this one, which is focused on how you can actually fine-tune performance if you have a lot of temp tables that are open on the instance. There are a couple of flags that we can recommend that you go and modify to make sure that the performance of your instance isn't impacted. We also have a whole other set of performance capabilities focused on really looking at the queries that you have running and how they're impacting your instance. So for example, we have a new capability called Index Advisor, which will look at the queries that are running and identify where your queries might get better performance if you add an index. We also have a new way of looking at the active queries running on your instance and their current state, so you can go and terminate connections if you need to for some of those active queries. We just published a new blog that walks through these capabilities and a lot of other new features that are available with Gemini and databases. So I'm going to link that below so that you can follow along when you have more time. All of these capabilities are really focused on making sure that you can stay on top of the performance for your Cloud SQL instance. And then, finally, I mentioned that we have a new set of recommendations focused on governance. Here is an example of one of those recommendations. It's highlighting that this specific instance is violating an industry compliance standard and telling you what changes you should go make to make sure that you're following that compliance standard. So that's all about how Gemini is helping to really transform the data management experience and follow you throughout your data management journey. Let's talk a little bit about Gen AI in Cloud SQL. So, I'm sure you've all heard a lot about vector search. Vector similarity is a measure of how similar two different vectors are. Vector search uses vector similarity to find relevant information based off of a query. So when it comes to Cloud SQL, we've now introduced vector storage and search within Cloud SQL for MySQL. As I mentioned, this is now in public preview. It allows you to use the same operational database that you're already using to store vectors in place. And it leverages the best of Google. We're using Google's open source scan libraries for these different types of ANN indexes that we support. We're also integrated with LangChain, which is something that a lot of our different database customers are using, which is a really popular framework for developing Gen AI applications. We are integrated in 3 different ways. We support memory, vector store. We now have a new collab for using MySQL as a vector store, and doc loader for loading information from documents. So let's say I want to build a Gen AI app. I want to be a food blogger, but I really actually don't have that much time to write my reviews and research new restaurants to visit. So how can I use Gemini and vector search in Cloud SQL to actually start kicking off my career as a food blogger? I'm going to quickly show you what this might look like. So here I have, I'm going to build an app that is using a couple of different capabilities, right? It's a WordPress app that's built on Cloud SQL. We're using compute for actually running the WordPress site itself. We're using Cloud SQL for storing the underlying data. It has a table that's a couple of tables actually that are already stored on the instance that help me keep track of restaurants. And then we're just going to build a website that is my new food blog. This is Studio for one of my Cloud SQL instances. You can see that I have a number of tables already stored on this instance. And I'm going to run this query. And what this query does is it says, hey, here's a restaurant. I want to get the vector embedding. We've already calculated these vector embeddings using Vertex AI. I want to get the vector embedding for a specific restaurant. This is a restaurant that's in Vegas called Tao Asian Bistro. And then I want to identify the 10 closest restaurants based off of vector distance. So I'm going to calculate vector distance from this specific restaurant to a set of other restaurants and just generate the 10 that are closest. So Tao Asian Bistro is a fairly fancy restaurant. It has a lot of different types of cuisines based in Vegas. And you can see that it is identifying other, upscale kind of fancy restaurants within Las Vegas that I could go visit as well. So then let's say I want to go and actually write a blog, right? I could go visit this restaurant and I could use Gemini to help me write a blog about that restaurant. And then I could suggest other restaurants to my readers that they might like because they might also be similar. So over here, I have a WordPress blog that we've actually already created. It's a restaurant blog powered by MySQL Vector Search and Gemini. I use Gemini to help me actually write these reviews. And here's a review of Tao Asian Bistro, where this review was written by Gemini, and I'm able to populate other similar restaurants based off of vector search with MySQL. So it's a really simple example, but you can see how powerful these capabilities are together. This application did not take a very long time to develop, but how powerful these capabilities are when you just kind of tie them together. So let's go back to the rest of our presentation. Vector search has actually already been used by a lot of customers in our initial private preview, and now it's in public preview. For example, Manhattan Associates has been using it. It's helped them integrate Gen AI capabilities into their applications. They're using it for a lot of different capabilities. One example is searching against product information to deliver better search results. So we're really excited to hear how you use it yourselves as you start building Gen AI applications. So we've talked about a lot, right? We've talked about how you can achieve higher availability, higher performance, build more robust disaster recovery plans. We've talked about how Gemini can assist you across your data management journey, how you can get started building Gen AI applications with Cloud SQL. There's a lot that you can go start exploring. We're really excited about a number of partners who are certified as Google Cloud Ready. These are a number of partner solutions that work seamlessly together with Cloud SQL. It's an official designation. So if you're looking to get started, you want to begin building with Cloud SQL, we definitely encourage you to check out these partners and see how they can help you in your application development process. And if you're ready to get started building, absolutely reach out. There's a big team of experts who are here ready to help you get started. And I encourage you to check out a number of other sessions focused on Cloud SQL across this, the full set of database engines that we support. So that's it. Thank you so much for being here with me today.